So this is my Neato bot. It has the infamous Lidar error. So basically the eye that spins underneath here doesn't spin, and when you start it, it says something's blocking my vision, error 3000 or something like that. So some people will kick it and it will work, but of course if you schedule it to start, that's no good. So if I flick it with a Q-tip, I find that sometimes it works, it gets the motor spinning. So I took it apart, looked at the motor, pulled it out, applied voltage to it, and while it spun kind of pulsy, like if it, old and worn. This particular one is a couple of years old. It runs 6 days a week, and it probably runs an hour each time. So I ordered a motor. It's a brand new motor with an old set of wires attached for 15 bucks. You could buy just the motor for like 12 bucks shipped, but even though it's a direct replacement, you have to reverse the wires on some of these motors, I understand, because the positive and negative are on the opposite sides. So I'm going to show you the error that we get here, and hopefully it doesn't make me a liar, because this has not worked in several weeks because of the Lidar error. And yep, it's not going to work, so just give it a second for the error. So it's just going to do that, and eventually it's going to come up with the Lidar error. So rather than bore you with details, I am going to show you the teardown, which actually will be boring details. But the reason why I'm going to show you, I'm not going to explain step by step what I'm doing, but it'll give you an idea of what's involved in tearing this down. So first thing I'm going to do is remove the dustbin, and hopefully you can see most of this. I'm going to move the camera back a little bit. I don't have a camera person to work with me. I'm going to flip it upside down, and I'm going to get to work. Probably never want to use an impact wrench with this, simply because you could strip out the screws, but I'll be a little extra careful. There's 2 batteries in here, 4 screws to remove the battery. Here, pull out the battery. If you notice, the front's facing towards me, and more on that later. And take out the cover for the brush. This thing's pretty beat up. I have replacements, but I'm not going to replace it if this ends up being broken. And I'm going to take more. 4 more larger screws. I'll put those in there. And then I'm going to remove this cover here, and also this back piece. And here they were nice enough to lose the zip tie, so you could just reuse it later and just slide it over that post. Get that out of the way there. This motor just sits on some pegs. This is the actual vacuum motor itself, and more screws. Now there are some 3 different kinds, but the majority of the screws are the longer skinny and the longer thicker screws. There's also some slightly shorter screws, and as I found out the hard way, I put 2 in the wrong place. The longer screws were shorter, and they came through right here. Not a big deal. I'm also going to pull out the wheels. The way I do it is I tilt it out, pull this rod here, pull the power cord or the power wire, and pull out the motor. Careful you don't lose that shaft. Same thing on this side. Pull that out. Pull out the cable. Disconnect the motor. This is the only Roomba, Neato I've owned. There's 2 warranty stickers you have to pop here. Take out those, and this filter goes in here, and you want to make sure you orient it the right way. There's a little bevel there, and this keeps it tight against there, but that's coming out right now. And there's also 2 screws here. You really don't have to pull the legs out, I don't think, but the problem is if you don't, harder to get these screws out. So there's another one too. See, I'm working too fast with my hands. Okay, and we got some more screws here. Don't recommend going for this fast with the drill. The screws get so hot they can melt the plastic on the way out. Wouldn't be the first time I had it. Now I'm going to do this corner screw last, and the reason why, it's actually a little shorter than all the others, and the reason being is that's just used to hold a sensor in place, the corner sensor, I believe. This comes off. Now all the screws, I believe, are out at this point. One thing you want to do is keep it so the flat is towards you, because as soon as you, oh, two more screws. These are the ones I used too long the first time and they went through. Two shorter screws. Is when you pull this straight up, well, and again, working too fast for myself. I wish I had a thin bit for the drill. The holes that they put these in are too small to fit a bigger screwdriver in, so you need like a narrow, thin shank bit. So I can't use that for that, I just want to demonstrate. The other reason why you pull the wheels out is the springs. Once you take the batteries out, it's not weighed down well, so everything becomes an issue as far as trying to keep it down. It wants to pop up. It makes reassembly a problem. That's not coming out. So lift this straight up, and there's a reason I'm going to say that. Take out this connector. Be careful. This actually clips in back here. This keeps popping out. And we'll pull out this connector here. I've seen that some people have had like a plastic type cable, like a printed circuit board type cable. Now here are these little bumpers here. When you put this together, if these aren't perfectly aligned, as soon as you power it back up, well, after you charge it and power it back up, it'll say, sorry, the bumper's stuck. And that happened the first time I put it back together. And you gotta rip all those screws out you just saw. Here's the Lidar unit, which there's two cables. This one I'm gonna pull. This one, when I pull, it always pulls the piece on the motherboard with it. This time it didn't. I'm gonna pull out these 4 screws here, and that will now allow me to pull the Lidar unit. And I'm gonna leave those 4 screws here, and there should also be one more screw here. Put that aside. Now the belt felt kind of loose, and that might have attributed to part of the problem. So what I did was I took the belt and I cleaned it off, a little soapy water, but then I also took a thin skim of the soft soap and put it on the belt, and it helped it stay rubbery. I don't know if it's the best idea, simply because of you know, it's a vacuum, it's dusty, so that might help attract dust, but might be bad in the long run. But you know, we'll see what happens. Now what I'm going to do is take this pulley off, and it doesn't require much. You just kind of start the wedge underneath, and it will eventually pop off for you, which we have there. And now I can take the small screwdriver and pull the motor that spins the Lidar. If you take these 4 screws out, you can see all the mechanism there, and you could the laser, you can clean it, but I'm not going to bother doing that. So here's the old motor, and while it seems to spin freely, I didn't like the way it acts, so I got this new motor. If it doesn't fix it, I'm out 15 bucks, but I'm sure I can resell the motor, you know, lose a little money. However, if it does if it doesn't fix the problem, the Lidar unit The cheapest I've seen it through third-party resources was 135. Otherwise, you're paying 220. These you can get refurbished sometimes for, you know, 225 bucks. So here's the new motor, and as I spin this around and spin this one around, we'll see that the positive and negative wires are on the same side, and this cable seems just as long. It's wired to the same orientation, and this gets spun this way. So looking at it, I would say that's the good orientation for this. So I'm gonna move this out of the way, put this underneath here. I'm gonna think like if this was installed. Like this. Okay, that's sitting. I take the two screws. Now I did find an extra screw roaming around in here. I didn't see where it went, and I never pulled it out. It was a short black screw. It wasn't a countersunk screw. So I don't know if it's kind of one of those parts that came off somewhere. It was an issue, but I'm not going to worry about it too much right now. I'm going to push this motor back on, push the belt on, spin it. See, it's hard to see because it's encased, but see if I gotta push it down any further or not. And I might be able to lift that just a little bit. Might have went down a little too far. And I don't mind if it's a little tight on the motor, because if the belt has some slippage, that may actually work to my benefit. So now I am going to plug these back in. One here, and this one's going to plug in over here. I could have probably run the cable the other way, but I don't see any harm in doing it this way. Of course, you learn that just because it doesn't work. So this video is going to be about 5 minutes longer than I originally expected, because I was thinking backwards. I don't want to rush too much because I don't want to break the belt, the pulley for the belt, I should say. I gotta spin that around so the wire faces the right direction. I was thinking it plugged in on the other side, which of course it doesn't. So let's spin this around, back on top. The wire this came with was also a little a heavier gauge. It doesn't manipulate as easy. So there we go. That one's in. That one's in. And I know people complain this video could have been 2 minutes. You should have just done it that way. But they all end up being about 20 minutes, and I annoy someone and they say stop talking or something, but you can always fast forward to the end. Okay, that looks good. Was originally going to test the motor on video, but I think that would have added a lot more unnecessary time. So I'm just going to plug this in where it needs to go. Now one thing is, even though this just came off the charger, as soon as I power everything back up, it's going to think the battery is low. And I'm going to have to charge it before I show you. So I'll have to pause everything, stick it on the charger for a while, and then give it a go and see if it works. Like I said, I'm not going to spend $200 on the Lidar. My first Neato was like a week just before it expired, and it had a positioning sensor error of some sort. And I called them, and no problem, they sent me a new one. Well, not a replacement, and it looked new. And that worked fine, but the battery wasn't lasting. So I called back, well, they said just do this and this. I think they were hoping that the 30 or 90-day warranty that they gave me on the new one would have expired. But I got on them, kept calling them back. They sent me a new battery, but even though it was new, that one still didn't seem to work that great. So, next thing is so I'm gonna make sure this wire's in between these points here. It always falls out. It's not like it's gonna stay in there for me. I could put some hot glue or something in there. I'm not gonna bother. Like I said, make sure these are here and they're good and aligned. So right now I'm going to plug this in here. I'm gonna plug this back in over here. And if you had left the drive gears in there, it would be pushing the front up and it wouldn't align. So I'm gonna push this down in here. That's another reason why you need this to stay in there, because it keeps this from interfering with the Lidar. So I'm gonna eyeball it straight down. I've done this twice now, and it seems like the more I do it, the more I screw it up. Put it back together. Maybe I should have hot glued it in place, but I'm not gonna do that. So make sure you bring it straight down, and you'll know it's perfect because it should just drop straight on without any trouble. Like that. Kind of seems like it went on okay, but there's still a little gap there, which makes me think that it didn't go drop straight down. And one of these pieces here are one of those bumper sensors are in the way, so I'm going to put this on a slight tilt and try that again. Because like I said, once you put it together, you really can't tell that the bumpers, it seems to click right in all the right ways. But it never, try it this way instead this time, but it never seems to work out for you. So let's put this back down. There we go, perfect. And you can just kind of click it, and that seems to be okay. And while I'm here, I'm going to pop in the 2 short screws to the front here, because that's really important. Short screws, and this will keep the bumpers from coming out. There's no more screws on this side. Hold it together, tip it upside down. I like to work with flat towards me. And now I'm just going to start dropping in screws. And this is a thin one that goes in the back. That ratcheting noise makes you think something's going to blow apart. Just going to check the battery level in the camera. That's still going. Actually looks like it's low. Hopefully I can get most of this together. If it does cut out, you'll be coming back to the video with it already assembled. Battery, we'll only record 30 minutes at a shot, this camera, which I'm kind of disappointed about. I didn't realize it before I bought it. It serves me right for not researching it more. But also, the battery has a tendency of only lasting 30 minutes as well. I don't know why I got the AC adapter that was plugged in all the time. It just didn't occur to me when I did this. And now I'm just kind of working against time here to get it done. So what I might do is pause, go get the adapter, and switch out the battery. So let's be right back. Okay, back to recording again. I had this, it took me a few minutes to find it. I was going to buy a cheap brand, but I found some reviews that say they cause issues with repetitive battery low signals and so forth. Except I'm going to put this, not the bumper on, I have to put those bunch of little screws in here, the ones I had to use the small screwdriver for. Simply because the bit, and these probably take more time to do than anything else. I cut me to pick up a Bosch bit. It has a really thin shank for things along that line. I think DeWalt makes them too. Everybody makes them. But that's what I usually see at Lowe's or Home Depot. that's okay. Put this on top. As I mentioned before, one of the screws for this are smaller than all the others, right here. So I'm just going to put that in first. It's definitely one you don't want to put the long screw in, go ruin your sensor possibly. I've never had any extra screws putting this back together. I pulled it apart, maybe, I'm going to just put some screws in that tend to pop out when this goes out. I've never had any extra screws at the end, so I guess I've lucked out. This is an XV series bot. I hear the new ones, bot vac or something like that. They're, from my own observation, they have a bigger vac dustbin, and the Lidar has been improved. Some people say that the Lidars are different. I was watching a video where someone showed it, that one of the people who sell the spare parts for this, they said, what do they know, an extra screw. Not quite sure where I missed that screw. It's going to show up somewhere here. Right there, there. Screw this down here. Yes, it is. Make sure that this, see what's going on here. This is too tight. Remember I mentioned that earlier? So let's go back and figure out where the problem is. That doesn't have to happen to me when I'm not filming. So this is fine, so something's interfering when I'm putting it down. So I'm gonna do this one screw at a time. Interesting, I've never had this happen. Everything seems to be in alignment. It could simply be something's cockeyed, a little tweaked. It's still fine. We'll go one at a time. It's always safe. Could also be those pegs I told you about. See, it's already sticking. So I'm going to actually pause it so you don't have to go through the pain, and I'll be back shortly. Okay, I'm back. So remember I told you about putting the cover on flat. Well, one of those, this didn't really snap in place. It sat right, but it didn't snap in place. And one of those little bumper pieces, they were interfering from closing. It's also these two different size short screws. This one goes on that sensor I was telling you about in the back. I thought I stripped a screw out, but it was because of that one difference. So while I'm here with you, I am going to attempt to reattach the bumper and hope there isn't an issue. And this one I'm going to put in by hand. And hope that this is not an issue. Okay. Yep. So, like I said, make sure that top cover goes on perfect. You shouldn't have to force it down. It should just pretty much click down. Otherwise, you'll be taking it apart like I did. I still see an extra screw there. It's got me scratching my head, but I don't recall taking out any extra screws anywhere. It'll come back to haunt me later, I'm sure. Nope, nope. There it goes. Just never learned to count, I guess. As everybody's shrieking, I'm hearing the impact wrench. But I've taken this apart a couple of times and definitely going to use a screwdriver. Okay, that seems good. So next, that wedge piece I told you can go right back in here. The motor, kind of a little bit funny to get in. You gotta pop it in straight. Well, you have to anyway, but straighten out the cable to do it so you can fit it down in there. That's why it doesn't go. Call me an idiot. And this there's a little rubber gasket here somewhere. There we go. Don't want to forget that. And this is going to go here. Okay, that seems to be down. And now this is the charge plate. This will definitely plug in. And then you can get the zip tie that they put on it. And I'll slide right on, there's no need to cut it. The legs, you're going to have to put in the cable first. Well, I guess it depends what you're comfortable with. I feel that there's too much stress on the cable if you try to put it in later. Again, I don't remember having this much trouble putting it together when I was off camera. And this has little clips and so forth to push the wires into so it doesn't get caught all around. Now the spring just kind of hooks on it. Here you got to be careful because, well, they usually sometimes break. People sell eye hooks to fix it, or some other crazy methods. So I'm going to slip that in, pop it down. If you don't push this down when you put that in, it won't go down at all. It gets caught up. And we'll do the second one. Sorry, I'm sure some of you wanted some zoom in, but my mind works faster than my hands, and I wouldn't be able to do this single-handedly. So, these in and out of the way. I'll probably do it after. Some of you are probably laughing at me right now with me struggling with this. That's alright. Okay, most importantly, make sure it doesn't interfere with anything, which it doesn't seem to. That's the old motor, hopefully. And now we have some other things to put together. So this right here, it's kind of slides in right there. Sometimes it's a little tight fit, and it has to do with this piece right here. I might have to pull it up and readjust it so it sits flush. It goes down. That looks okay now. I don't know why I'm blowing that off. It's not like it's going to make a difference, seeing that it's a dusty vacuum. And for the batteries. The batteries, you know, the way they're shaped, they have those angles. You need this angle to be on the outside. If you don't, you'll find that to be very difficult to put that cover plate on and have it stay flat down. So I have the wedge facing the wrong way, of course. Fit this down here. It's down. If you notice, the wedge is down here. Now this plate should fit quite nicely, which it does. Same thing over here. Plug that in. Neato's awake. One thing I should do before I screw it down is make sure it doesn't say my bumper stuck, because that's what it did last time when I had it all together. I didn't pay enough attention. So no extra screws, so that's a good sign. And this piece, you can reverse it. Sometimes these seize up. I take them out. It's usually hair or something stuck in there, and I put a drop of 3-in-1 on it. Now I'll spin that out of the way. Get that to go in, and it spins freely. Now we put this cap on, cover, whatever you want to refer to it as. I'm going to turn it over. And it should complain about the battery needing to be charged, which it does. And it's probably going to say, hey, put the dustpan in too. I don't think it's going to allow me to power this up. Let's see, my battery's too low. So I'm going to put this on the charger and I will be back. So it took about a half an hour to top off the battery before it let me work. So let's see if this was worth the effort or not. I can see the Lidar spinning, so that's a good sign. Let's see what it does otherwise. And there we go. So a $15 motor fixed the problem. This is good news. If you found this video helpful, please you know, give me a thumbs up. And if you have any questions, I'll do my best to answer for you. But $15 in a couple of weeks. A couple of things about Neato to make this video even longer. We run this 6 days a week, and this bin is always full. Forced hot air tends to do that quite a bit. Since this hasn't been running in a couple of weeks, the amount of dirt and everything we see on the floor it's crazy. So this was well worth the money paid for it. Would have been worth $250 to repair it though. Robotics wants you to send it to a company. They charge you $38 to look at it, plus you got to pay shipping both ways. So you're into it for, let's say, $75, and if it's not fixed, well, you lose your money. But I think this turned out pretty well. I appreciate you watching. Sorry it took so long, but again, I think there was some sort of value in this, especially with your Neato users with the my vision's been blocked 3000 error. Have a good one.